This can happen at any moment. Right now, crypto prices are creeping higher, but the volumes remain incredibly low. And this is very telling because it shows behind the scenes that the sellers have become exhausted. And that means that the bulls will soon take over from the bears, and when that flips, that will push Bitcoin beyond all-time highs, signaling to the wider market that we're risk on, and that will cause altcoins to surge like crazy as they play catch-up with Bitcoin. And as we look into this Bitcoin chart, this is really incredibly close to happening. And on top of all of this, all of the things that have been holding crypto back over the past 6 to 12 months, like tariffs and interest rates, are soon going to become a thing of the past as they slowly move aside for much more exciting and much more positive crypto news. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Let's dive into today's video. Now guys, before we go and check out this Bitcoin chart, which at the time of making this video sits at $109,000, just under this key area of resistance. Why is it so key? Because just up here, you've got billions of dollars of Bitcoin short positions that will be liquidated. Billions of dollars, effectively of Bitcoin buy pressure that will be added and send Bitcoin into all-time high territory. This will cause altcoins to try and play catch up like crazy. And we'll talk about which altcoins I think are going to be playing catch up first, slightly later on when we look at that Bitcoin chart. But before we do that, you might have noticed something more recently. Over the past few years, various news in the markets has been kind of pro-crypto or maybe negative towards crypto. You probably realized around the time that Donald Trump got into power that the news was incredibly pro-crypto. BlackRock making ETFs. We had Donald Trump saying that he was going to create a Bitcoin fund and all these other beneficial things for crypto. That all then ended in January time when Donald Trump came into power, and it all got replaced with this negative news that seemingly always had pressure on the markets, but not in a good way. Interest rates were high and they never seemed to come down. The Fed wasn't gonna budge. We had World War III come out just a couple of weeks ago. Seemingly that's disappeared. And on top of all of this, tariffs. Tariffs have played havoc with our bags over the last 6 months or so. But all of this is about to change because now we're moving into an environment where you're going to see a lot more positive news. Why is that? Well, because behind the scenes, the institutions, Donald Trump probably, BlackRock, all the banks, they've all loaded up with all the bags that they needed to fill, and they're ready to start moving the narrative again. If you start to zoom out and you start to pay attention to this news while the price is moving around over time, you might start to realize that there's a bigger game being played and we're just reacting to it. And if you stop reacting to it, which hopefully if you've been subscribed to the House of Crypto, so that you become a less reactive trader and you start to understand what's really going on behind the scenes, then you can start to make some slightly better decisions. Now what we can see happening is a move into the positive news. And let me show you proof of that. Just next week, we've got Crypto Week. Donald Trump, along with the Committee of Financial Services, are going to have a meeting talking about various different elements around crypto. The Clarity Act, so that you can identify exactly what's a security, what's a crypto. Obviously, XRP got caught up in a lawsuit for years without having the clarity of what was a security and what wasn't. You're going to see other stuff about anti-CBDC surveillance state cryptos and all these other bits and pieces. Ultimately, this is all a very pro-crypto move. And it's being done at a time, very interestingly, where the market is starting to pivot from kind of painful sentiment to more positive sentiment. But looking back over the past few years, many people out there will argue that we've never really had a true altcoin season, or altcoin season couldn't possibly start until we saw interest rates starting to come down. While Bitcoin's been able to rally without the need for interest rate cuts, altcoins have peaked and troughed with a couple of mini bull markets, but never really seen a full-blown bull market. So a cut in interest rates could be very positive for the market because it signals risk on for institutions, banks, etc. Let me just quickly explain something. Lots of banks, institutions are currently holding lots of money in low-risk assets like bonds, and they've been earning interest rates on those. However, with inflation relatively high and interest rates potentially coming down, they're then going to be forced to come out and move their money into something slightly more risky. Why? Because if they don't do that, they're going to lose spending power on their money. Now, while you and I are probably losing like $15 per year on the spending power of that $100 note that you hold, imagine that amplified up into billions, if not trillions of dollars. There's a lot of money they're losing out on by keeping it in low risk. And when the interest rates come down, they're going to be forced into risk assets faster than you could ever imagine. And what sends that signal? Interest rates coming down. And with trueflation now dropping under 2% to 1.75%, this gives Jerome Powell the green light potentially to come in and reduce interest rates. And again, if we jump across to this story, the Fed would have cut interest rates by now if it wasn't for Trump's tariffs, according to Jerome Powell. So what about these tariffs? Well, they seem to have gone a little bit quiet, haven't they? Because obviously they've had a lot of impact on the markets over the past year or so. And I say the past year or so because you're probably thinking, well, yeah, the tariffs had a bit of an impact here and here, but actually the tariffs have really been having an impact since, I would say, probably around kind of this time. Because while Donald Trump won the election on like the 5th of November or 6th of November, can't quite remember, it did start to look like he was going to win the election around here. And as soon as that happened, the idea that he would bring in tariffs started to have effect. What was that? Effectively, it meant that the US dollar climbed aggressively in value. And that's what caused the M2 money supply to die off. While the M2 was increasing like crazy into sort of September and October, eventually it died off because of a hike in the US dollar that was directly linked to the tariffs. And that's what caused this to play out. Now, obviously, tariffs are starting to slowly disappear. And you can see this right now. Global stock markets are calling Trump's bluff on tariffs. He tried to bring in more tariffs on various different countries around the world, and this was just the reaction of the global stock markets. In fact, unlike being down, they're all up. They are starting to realize that maybe these tariffs aren't really going to be enforced in any particular meaningful way, and they were just being used as a bargaining chip by Donald Trump to try and drive some different policy changes that he wanted to see. And we're starting to see this slowly get forgotten about. All of the risks to the market, all of the things that have been holding us back, all of the sentiment-destroying news that has been used to control these markets is slowly going away. All at a time that Bitcoin sits just under all-time highs, and altcoins sat at probably the best value they've been at for literally years. So where are things going? Should we really be this bullish? Well, ultimately, yes, because if you've been subscribed to this channel over the past year or so or before, you know that we've been tracking along and following along with the M2 money supply, which, as you can see, gives us a rough guide of how the markets move. They move up, they come down, they move up. Now they've been going sideways, but ultimately this will continue to put pressure upwards on Bitcoin and the altcoins, and all those other things are going to obviously come in and drive this as well. This is the cycle. This is what's been driving the cycle over the past few years, with around sort of an 83-day delay. Maybe you could drop it down to 70, 75, whatever it is. But ultimately, you can see that this will result in positive price movement. But most importantly, right now in this zone, we're seeing something very, very key play out. I want you to look at the difference between all of these different top points across Bitcoin over the past kind of 7 or 8 months compared to this one. You might notice something. Every single time that Bitcoin rallied into this area before, the day or two after, very aggressive drops. Very aggressive drops, pretty aggressive drops. Not necessarily as aggressive here, but still fairly aggressive. Here again, very aggressive drop. Single candle, 2 or 3 candles down here. And right now we did have a couple, but we've come back in. And now we're not getting any of these coming away. What does this tell us? It shows that the people who wanted to take profits in this area, the people who've been mining, the people who've been buying down here or trading or whatever it is, are no longer wanting to take profits or have no profits to take. So the people who want to sell have already sold. And now there is only people left who are wanting to slowly buy. Yes, the buyers not necessarily there in huge volumes, but as the buyers continue to come in, we will eventually creep above this line. And this is very key because when it breaks above that line and it hits into the billions of dollars of liquidity that sit in those short positions, so effectively lots of people who thought that this was a good bet to go short here, they have massively over leveraged positions, all their short positions sit up here. Effectively when the price hits there, all of those shorts get flipped, turned into buys, and this will send Bitcoin like this. Because remember, there's not the sellers there anymore to be able to suppress this. So the buyers will push up and hit that liquidity. Sellers have been exhausted. There's none of them left. Bitcoin rallies like crazy. And as soon as this happens, we flip into belief zone. And altcoins are already starting to smell that. Okay? They're already starting to smell it. And let me prove it to you. Versus Bitcoin, look at the charts right now. This is XRP versus Bitcoin. Now, whether you like XRP or not, I don't really care. Okay? It's just a big market cap coin. This will get running strongly and will move when the altcoins move. And this is just the first taste of it. This is versus Bitcoin. It's incredibly important, the versus Bitcoin point, because it shows weakening Bitcoin dominance, which you can see has been dropping ever since the 27th of June, currently on the 9th of July. And this is Cardano versus Bitcoin. You can see that it's rallying from this buy zone that it initially rallied out of back when Donald Trump won the election. As you can see, this is a strong reversal happening right now. Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Ethereum investors have taken some of the most punishing times over the past few years, but look, right now you're seeing a very similar pattern emerging here with the dip, the pickup, and then starting to move like this that we saw back in the 2017 bull market, where the ETH versus BTC price dipped like this and eventually it ripped out, causing altcoin season. Okay, right now we are looking at the very first early stages of that. Okay, the larger cap coins starting to move. Why is Ethereum moving? Well, because over the last few weeks, months even, BlackRock have been buying in massive quantities, as has the US president, as have a number of other major institutions. And this is what's been happening. The price has been kept artificially low by market makers, by lots of different news events and things like that to keep crypto into these areas. It allows big smart money to be able to buy until they're ready to start moving the needle. When they're ready to move the needle, they start to launch various different positive crypto news events that then pushes prices back up. And okay, so these are the big cap coins, right? I might not be holding that much XRP or Cardano or ETH or whatever else. Maybe I'm in on sort of like mid-cap coins and small-cap coins. Well, ultimately, this happens every time. And you know this happens every time if you've been involved in this bull market since, let's say, here or here. Because every single time you get this point where Bitcoin breaks beyond all-time highs or breaks into a solid area where they kind of like sees significant rising without any massive pauses. Here we started to see it, but we had a long sideways bit. When you get that next major push coming from Bitcoin, it's going to signal risk onto the alts. And everything is ready right now. Everything is prepped to just make that move. Okay, you can see this is the others chart. Okay, this is others rallied incredibly strongly when Bitcoin started to show strength. Now you can see it's been in this kind of like falling wedge, but it showed more strength here. Ultimately, if you zoom out of this others chart, you can see that it is just finding support on a trend line that's been running since back in 2022. And ultimately, this will eventually move up towards this point. Once it starts to break beyond here, things are going to go absolutely crazy and you're going to all completely have lost the plot and you're going to be very glad that you've been buying in during all the fear and worry that you've been seeing over the past few months. This doesn't necessarily happen tomorrow, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And the fact that you can see coins like XRP right now moving 3%, and at the time of making this video, starting to break out of this pattern. The fact that you can see Cardano moving up towards this particular key point here. These coins, Cardano, XRP, HBAR, whatever, they all led the last bull market. Why? Institutions drive a lot of money into these. They cause a lot of FOMO, okay? That's going to start to trickle down through mid-cap coins, smaller cap coins, etc. Right now, where we're at is an incredibly exciting time in the markets, okay? And it's because Bitcoin sat at all-time highs, and Bitcoin dominance is sat incredibly high. I want you to think back to the last kind of like minor bull markets that we've seen across altcoins. There was one at the end of last year. Look at what Bitcoin dominance did during that time. Okay, during that time, you saw the likes of Sui hitting all-time highs. You saw other coins doing like 10x's, 20x's, like virtuals going crazy, like altcoins, like meme coins taking off. Imagine what happens when we get Bitcoin dominance doing one of these. Okay, it does one of these, it will come down, and then everything's going to go absolutely crazy. As we've been saying, it's just taken a little bit longer to play out. But ultimately, I'm pretty happy to be exposed to the markets right now. Now, guys, I appreciate it. I haven't really made that many YouTube videos over the last 4 or 5 days, which is the longest stint of not making a YouTube video for the House of Crypto that I've done in the like 4 years that this channel's been around. But if you felt like you missed out on what was going on, you wanted to know what was happening, then you should probably be following me over on Twitter. Okay, so it's Peter_THOC. Make sure it's this one with the blue check mark because there's lots of other impersonating me over there right now. I've been posting over here pretty regularly about various different charts and things I'm looking at, telling people what to be paying attention to. So make sure you go and follow me over on Twitter if you've been feeling like you haven't seen everything, because it's much easier for me to post over here than it is to just put YouTube videos out. As of tomorrow, I'll be making another YouTube video, and I will start to push more YouTube content again as the markets are starting to get on the move and there's more things to talk about. Now, guys, if you're still trying to get into crypto and making the most of these discount prices for altcoins just before we start to see the markets tick up in a very big way, make sure that you're buying altcoins and things through exchanges that basically offer you the cheapest fees, non-KYC, as well as significant bonuses and a huge range of different mid to small cap coins. Now, these different exchanges I personally use myself all the time, BloFin, Bitunix, and WEEX, all come with a huge range of different coins, as well as not requiring KYC, and as well at the moment, they all come with significant bonuses. Some of them you can win $10,000 or more, others you can win Rolex watches and other exciting prizes as well. Make sure you sign up with these exchanges, because over the course of this bull market, when we're talking about different coins, different things we're going to be getting into, we will always talk about coins that are available on these different exchanges. If you've already signed up for one of those exchanges, you can simply use another email address and sign up through my link down below so that you can access that bonus and be able to get as many extra coins as possible, because that's going to pay off in a very big way as this bull market starts to take on more upside action. Now guys, obviously in the very short term, who knows what's going to happen from minute to minute, but over the next few days, and I believe by at least next week, we're going to be seeing Bitcoin at all-time highs and beyond. Things are about to get incredibly exciting. If you got this far through the video, hit the like button. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know different types of videos you want me to talk about. If you don't have anything to say, just leave a full stop or something. Really helps me get this content out to more people. It makes it more worthwhile for me to be able to make these videos more regularly. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.